All right, so it looks like we got some pretty big news here about Joe Rogan. So it looks like Joe Rogan's own fans have turned on him, and he's got some pretty major backlash going on here. But there's something kind of funny about this account that sent this out that we'll kind of get into in a second. But if you don't know what ended up happening was Joe Rogan said some kind words about RFK. He basically said that he was supporting RFK. And then what ended up happening was Trump actually went off on him. So it says former President Trump shot back at podcaster Joe Rogan after he praised independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. this week. Quote, "It will be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring. MAGA 2024, Trump posted to a True Social site. When I saw this for the first time, honestly, I thought it was fake. I thought it was just made up, but it is confirmed to actually be from his True Social account. Trump has been attending a lot of the UFC events. I don't know if he thinks it's like a converted his place, if that's his home is what he's thinking. But for Joe Rogan's comments, he says that he's the only one that makes sense to me, Rogan said, adding that Kennedy, quote, doesn't attack people, he attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. I mean, all of that is completely false, obviously. Kennedy is just an anti-vax lunatic. The funniest part about Kennedy, though, is he's like, the funniest conspiracy theory about him would be like he's kind of controlled opposition because he's supposed to be like this big rebel against, the system and the establishment. And he's like the biggest Israel supporter possible. And then he has like all these ties to Epstein and all these people, like all these like really, really horrible people who are like establishment figures. He has connections to them. So he's not even really anti-establishment. He's probably just mentally disabled. And so it says here, Rogan's praise of Kennedy drew criticism from Republicans, and so he's such a pussy, basically. He had to issue this kind of like, half-assed sort of apology. He says, for the record, this isn't an endorsement. This is me saying that I like RFK Jr. as a person. I really appreciate the way he discusses things with civility and intelligence. I think we could use more of that in this world. Rogan also said in the post that he thought Trump raising his fist and yelling fight after his assassination attempt last month is one of the most American fucking things of all time. I'm not the guy to get political information from. If you want that from a comic, go to Comic Dave Smith. He actually knows what he's talking about, Rogan said in his post. So Dave Smith, I believe, is like this libertarian guy. And so he's basically saying to go to a libertarian guy to get your information is what he's saying. But he felt so much pressure on him that he had to issue this kind of half-assed sort of apology statement saying, oh, it's not an endorsement. I don't know why he felt the need to do that, if he really felt what he believed, or he didn't really feel like any of the pressure could impact him, or if he felt like there was no influence from the fans on him. He just wouldn't have said anything. But so we can see this here. This is hilarious. So this says, who else thinks Joe Rogan is a sellout and a coward for not endorsing Donald Trump? Now, this post has over 1 million views according to Twitter numbers, which who knows, it's Elon Musk, so he's probably lying out of his ass anyways. Over 1 million views, 25,000 favorites on here. But what's the most hilarious is 15,000 responses. We're going to go through the responses, but the funniest part is the account that actually sent this out is a literal parody account. So it says Marjorie Taylor Greene press release parody, and it says, "Want to take back our country? Join me, Donald Trump won, proud patriot, pro Elon Musk parody." This is literally a parody account that sent this out, right? But what's hilarious is all of the people responding are not parody accounts, they're all serious. So I guess all these people couldn't see that this is not actually Marjorie Taylor Greene, or maybe this had no impact on it whatsoever, I don't know. But you can see that all the people responding to this are serious. And so like Ultra MAGA literally says, he will endorse Kamala/Walz next week, and these are not parody accounts, these are just like very serious kind of accounts. This is so disappointed. I'm not happy with him after everything we've been through. I feel like he sold out to the left to get votes away from Trump. I'm not even really sure how that happened, to be honest. I mean, I think that Joe Rogan is sort of a shapeshifter. I think in 2018, I definitely would have said he was like kind of progressive or left and everything. But definitely, ever since the COVID pandemic, he definitely took a hard right turn for sure, with all, being against all the COVID regulations. And then he was really happy, I think, when Biden had lost. I don't remember if it was Florida or Texas or whatever, but he definitely wanted to vote Trump too. But I think he can't come out in public and say that because he would just get too much backlash. And so I think he doesn't want to deal with that, especially if he's at Spotify. Maybe he's afraid that Spotify or employees there are going to get even more fueled in terms of their opposition towards him or something. I don't know. But there's just, he can't come out and say it for him. It's just too divisive for his personal thing. So he has to hide it. But he also said that he doesn't want Kamala to win. He's like really scared of Kamala winning or something like that. So he clearly is not a Democrat at all. But he shapeshifts all the time. And then he throws in kind of random like sort of things like screws screwdrivers and such to kind of throw people off. He'll be like, oh yeah, Michelle Obama would be a great president or something like that. So because he doesn't want to get pigeonholed, he kind of wants to be able to appeal to everybody. But clearly he's more in that right wing camp. He moved to Texas and everything, so. We clearly know where he stands, but he kind of has to pussyfoot because he doesn't want to get pigeonholed, pretty much. I believe Joe Rogan is a sellout and a coward. I think he is a sellout, but not because he didn't endorse Trump. What's wrong with Rogan? When did he change his mind? And so I guess this person says, stop already, enough of the liberal shaming cultish behavior. We are part of the party of freedom, not do as we say or else. So we saw this happen also, actually, because it happened with Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse came out and was like, oh, like, I'm a Second Amendment voter. And he posted like a meme of like a bunch of things that he did that were actually pro-gun control, which I confirmed at least a few of them were true. Like at least at one point supporting a ban on bump stocks and raising the minimum age to own a firearm, etc. But he got absolutely demolished by Trump fans. They just went off on him. They just destroyed him. And so it's like this big cult, basically. But I guess this person is actually calling it out. And so there are some people here who are definitely like kind of defending is what it looks like. And so there are some people who are defending him here. Doesn't change anything for me. I'm voting Trump. I think it's dumb to go after Joe Rogan. If you want his vote, make a better argument. And so we can kind of see that there seems to be some some people who are actually defending him. So that's kind of how strong the Joe Rogan fandom goes. So there are some people defending him, it looks like. And so what we can see here is pretty much, there is the situation where, Joe Rogan is getting a lot of backlash for what he's saying, a ton of backlash to the point where he had to respond, basically. And so there's a bunch of MAGA people who are coming after him, but there's also, I guess, people who are defending him, I guess, because he kind of took this stance. So it'll be really interesting to kind of figure out and see where this is kind of going to head for Joe Rogan, because he's obviously not like going to ride hard on the Trump train. I know that he definitely deep down inside wants Trump to win for sure. He really doesn't like Democrats now for whatever reason. He just really hates Democrats now. So I'm not exactly sure what his sort of plan is. I think he voted Gary Johnson in 2016 or something, and then I think he might have voted Libertarian again in 2020, or maybe not voted, I forgot. But he clearly does not want the Democrat to win, but I think it's just too divisive for him to come out and support the Republican. And so he's kind of going to try to ride the fence. And I think the ride the fence guy right now is RFK, because he's the independent guy. RFK is only polling at about 5% right now, so he's definitely going to pull out. Potentially pull out, not definitely, we'll see. That might be like a Trumpian move of trying to get him to endorse him to see if he can absorb that percent, and depending on how much of that percent is actually already going to Trump, we don't know exactly. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think Joe Rogan, I don't know if Joe Rogan was kind of always this right-wing guy and he kind of went through that weird like lefty arc he had for a couple of years, but he definitely is right-leaning now for sure. He's right-wing now for sure, especially with all the move to Texas and everything. So I think Joe Rogan is already in that camp, but I think he just can't sell it. And you can see the fact that he had to apologize or like kind of send out this clarification tweet, I think just goes to kind of show that he really needed to do it because he has this kind of big influence in the, with the Trumpsters and that kind of thing. So Joe Rogan getting a lot of backlash for his comment. There were some people who were defending him here, you could see. So, the cult thing, maybe there's some defense for Joe Rogan. So I guess Joe Rogan is strong enough to where he can get some defense. Kyle Rittenhouse, it appeared, didn't actually get any. But let me know your thoughts on this down below.